Hello everyone, good evening. So we'll be continuing our topic on chapter 1, which is on the learner. So last meeting or last video recorded, we have already talked about the three main or the three previous cognitive faculties of our learners. So tonight we'll be now moving on to the last two cognitive faculty. Although they are the last two, they are quite a bit long because there are several theories that we will be talking about. So mapapansin nyo later on, there will be a crossover on child and adolescent development and probably on your teaching profession when it comes to the discussion on the last two cognitive faculties of our learners. Okay, so just a recap on the cognitive faculties that we have discussed. We have finished first five senses, and we have discussed in here the Dale's cone of experiences. Now, the more senses are involved in the teaching learning process, the more that the learning is achieved by our learners. Ibig sabihin, mas maraming senses ang ginagamit natin o pinapagamit natin sa learner, mas nagre-retain yung information sa kanila. The next that we have is instincts, no? Yung instincts sa ating mga learners is actually an innate behavior. It's already in there. So, nasa sa ating mga teachers on how we will be using that fight or flight, no? Na survival mode ng mga estudyante natin to change their perspective from the negative or medyo brute into something that is more useful and kind of or not or positive side of their behavior. So, nasa sa atin ano. And the third one is imagination. So, in terms of imagination, this is the capability or cognitive capability of our learners to recall or form shapes or representations in their mind that is not present at the moment. So, as I said, we need to develop our students' ability to think outside the box. So, marami tayong pwedeng gamitin dyan in terms of our learning or teaching process. One is yung role playing, pwede mo silang pakantahin, creative material. So, depende sa magiging approach ninyo kung paano may enhance yung imagination ng mga learners natin. So, for tonight, we'll be now moving on to the last two cognitive faculties of our learners. And this now includes one, memory, and two, or the last, is intellect. And then after the cognitive faculties, we'll be discussing the appetitive faculties of our learners. Meron pa. So, I hope you, at the moment right now, no, pwede nyo itong i-pause, get your notebook and your paper or whatever writing material that you have in there kasi yung ibang i-discuss ko are not found in the presentation. Yung iba will be coming out, no, spontaneously as we will be discussing. Yun din ang kagandahan nitong recording. It's that you can rewind or come back to this discussion. So, pwede nyo pa siyang makuha. Kaya lang, I also really suggest na magsulat kayo or you take down notes kasi mas yung in terms of memorization, mas nag instill dyan. And remember, the more senses that you are using, the more that the information will be instilled to you. So, yun siya. Okay, so the fourth cognitive faculty of our learners is memory. Memory, this is their capability to retain, recall, or recognize past mental acts. It's their ability to retrieve the past experiences that they have instilled in their memory. So, memory could be a good positive aid to the teacher or it could be a hindrance to a teacher. Why? Because if the experience is a good one, then memory or just enhancing no, enhancing mo lang yung sa experience ng bata will be easy. However, if the past experience of the student or the learner deviates with what should be the true information or the true learning, then there will be a hindrance sa yung teacher kasi meron na siyang previous knowledge which is wrong, no? Ngayon, ang challenge sa ating mga teachers is to correct that previous notion. And that is where the hindrance comes in because um, the previous knowledge of any person will be difficult to be debunked with unless you have a lot of information that will tell the learner or the student that what they believe was actually wrong in the first place. So, mahirap doon yung part natin. However, no, memory could serve us in a good way as teachers as long as we know how to use, no, the memory skills or the memory cognitive faculty of our learners. Memory work is basic in learning. Alam nyo rin po yan. Madaling magsaulado ng mga spelling. We could easily memorize countries. We could memorize names, words, or any information regarding our lessons. But the problem in there is that we should not tolerate memorization only. As teachers, we should help our learners do memorization with understanding. That is, they could memorize the information. They may memorize the entire sentence, the entire paragraph, or the entire chapter. But the more important thing is that they understood what they have memorized. Kasi mamaya, they just memorize the word, but they do not. Baguhin mo lang, rearrange mo yung statements mo, or i-change mo lang yung questioning mechanism mo, then nararatal ng bata. Why? Because they only relied on mere memorization and there is no understanding. Magkakaroon tayo ng problem dyan. No? So, as future teachers, or if you will be pursuing teaching, you should aid your learners to memorize the information, but at the same time, to understand memorization, whatever they have memorized. Kasi aminin man natin o hindi, as students before, we did memorization, plain memorization. However, maganda that at step by step, okay, memorizing na, but then again, you need to enhance, no, dagdagan mo yung memorization nila ng understanding. You need to let your learners understand the information. So, paano natin siya gagawin? How do we make sure that there will be, no, memorization at the same time, and more importantly, there is understanding. So we have three types of working memory: my sensory, my physical, my physiological, yan, no? So as as a learner, you need to understand that there is brain progression. What do we mean by brain progression? When you subject your learner with information, meron siyang progression. Yung information na yun, merong steps, no? Kung paano siya napaprocess ng yung learners. One, unang-una, they receive the information. Two, they will store the information. Three, they will retain the information. And once the information is there, and another stimulus, kung napunta sila sa isang sitwasyon again, a situation or a stimulus that negates the prior experience, magre-retrieve yung brain mo, and whatever they have, no, they have memorized in the past, they will utilize that information to address the current situation or stimuli. Again, so kapag pag-uusapan natin learner, pagka meron tayong ini-introduce sa kanilang information or meron sila nakuha information, they will receive that, they will store that, and they will retain that information in their brain. And once there is another situation, another stimulus outside that have the same, no, same situation in the past, whatever they have retained in their brain, they will retrieve that kasi na-assess nila, they have already assessed that the new or the current situation is the same with the past situation. So they will retrieve that, and that past experience, they will utilize that information. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, that their memory skills or the ability of our learners to store or to retain information could either make or break us, no? Pwede siyang makatulong sa atin, pwede siyang magpahirap sa atin bilang teachers. So, anong gagawin mo so that there will be, no, yung whatever your students understand, whatever your students memorize is really good, is that there should be understanding, no? Dapat ma-enhance mo siya. Memorization with understanding. And sa klase mo, how will you ensure that there will be, no, retention of what you have taught or what you are teaching? So, meron tayong do's and don'ts. Simple do's and don'ts lang. One, no, as a teacher, these are the things you can do. One, verbal repetition. You have to repeat what you have said. You can either have the same flow of the sentence or pwedeng pag-iba-ibahin mo siya. But there should be key words that you are going to repeat. Napapansin nyo rin sa akin yan, no? On my video discussion and even on our live discussion, no? Meron akong repetition, paulit-ulit ako. Minsan, baka sabihin nyo sa akin, nakakasawa naman sila, ma'am. But what I am trying to show you in there is a verbal repetition. The more that you repeat it, there's a higher chance that they could, no, nai-instill, naiiwan sa mga learners natin yan, and pwede siyang ma-retain sa kanilang memory or sa kanilang brain. Another one is that you need to pause once in a while. Nagre-repeat ka nga, pero you have to, at least kapag nasa klase ka, mag-pause ka rin. You can, in terms of pausing, pwede mong sabihin, do you understand? O pwedeng, do you have any questions? Yun yung ika-third. You can ask while you are pausing. Because, why do you need to ask them, do you have a question? Because you are now trying to know kung meron na instill sa kanila, meron nag-retain sa kanila. Because when they ask you, then there's a chance that 50% of the entire class is listening to you, and the information that you are giving is being transferred to your students. Kasi, ano nga ba ulit yung tanong ko? Ma'am, may tanong po ako. So, that means that on the process of teaching and learning, nakinig siya, nag-retain yung information niya, pero meron siyang previous idea on the topic, kaya magtatanong siya sa iyo. So, nagkakaroon ngayon ng stimulation, nagkakaroon ngayon ng brain movements, no? Nagkakaroon ngayon ng, ano yung bata, recalling, nagkakaroon siya ngayon, na-stimulate po ngayon yung bata to think. At the same time, you are nai-ensure mo ang sarili mo that there could be retention or they are recognizing what you are teaching. I hope it makes sense, no? Kung wala kasi kayo sa teaching world, medyo parang nakakalito, no? But, okay, ganito. You need to have verbal repetition. Magpaulit-ulit ka. Not naman to the point na naubos yung isang oras, ano? Enough lang, you can assess that. Enough for your students to at least grasp the idea. After the verbal repetition, you have to pause for a while and look to your students. Tingnan mo. Kasi, maniwala po kayo sa hindi. When you are on the situation, when you are on the classroom or even on face-to-face, or kahit naman po sa online, lalo kapag bukas ang camera, you can see on your student's face or expression na parang ang daming question mark. Ma-assess mo po yun. Pag nandun na kayo sa sitwasyon, maaalala niyo ako, ay sinabi ito ni ma'am. Makikita mo sa mukha nila na merong question mark or that they don't seem to understand yet what you are saying. So, ang mangyayari po doon is that because you pause, you are now currently assessing your students to whether they narinig ka ba nila? Did they really understand you? So, titingnan mo yan. Kaya may pause. Kaya kung minsan nakipapansin mo ng mga teachers mo, they stop talking and then titingin sila, scan a little while and then, do you have any questions? Magtatanong siya ng ganun. Why? Because he or she can see on the students, no, na merong question mark na lumulutang o nakaplaster sa noo ng mga bata mo. Mapapansin niyo po yan. That means that there could or nahihirapan silang i-grasp yung information. So, mahihirapan silang i-retain yung information. Kailangan maipaintindi mo sa kanila yon, or you cite examples, you cite experiences na malapit sa mga na-experience nila. Kumbaga, this is what I do. Kumbaga, example. So, you give examples also para medyo malapit sa mga na-experience nila, and thereby, nagkakaroon ng effect sa kanila and nare-retain sa kanila information. Pag-uusapan din natin yan later. Okay? Anong hindi mo dapat gawin? Unang-una, if you want your students to memorize with understanding the lesson, do not bombard your learners with too much information. Ito yung sinasabi ng mga bata na, "Ma'am, wait lang po, info overload, info overload." Okay. Challenge din pala ito sa ating mga teachers, no? Madalas sa mga estudyante natin sasabihin, info overload, pero hindi naman ganun kadami yung information na binigay mo. So, you need also to assess that. So, pag sinabi nilang, you do not bombard your learners with too much information, kung sobrang dami ng jargon terms mo, hindi pwedeng sa isang salitaan, puro jargon lang yan. So, kailangan meron ka rin previous lessons na pinag-usapan nyo siguro, ang mga definition of terms muna, na ma-encounter na sa subject nyo, and so on, para pagdating sa mga current lessons nyo, okay na siya, no? And do not bombard learners with too much information and very rapidly. May mga teachers tayo, aminin man natin o hindi, in the past, na parang hinahabol na siya yung information. Pero ano daw sinabi ni teacher? So, the reason behind that is, syempre, in real scenario, we only have a very short time span to explain things. We have, I think in high school, ngayon, in senior high school, is that they have 45 minutes to 60 minutes lang per subject. And at the topic of the day, masyadong malawak yung topic niya. So, kahit na i-cut niya, hindi niya magagawa. So, hinahabol niyang oras niya. Mabilis siya magsalita. Ang problema natin doon, katulad nito, pag sinabi mo maraming mabilis, ang salita ka ng masalita ng mabilis, hindi mo naiintindihan kung sinasabi ng teacher mo, baka hindi mag-grasp ng estudyante mo yon. So, as you can see, the more that you bombard your students in a very rapid way, para ka nag-rap, hindi niya mag-grasp yun. You need to pace how you deliver the information. Kasi that also affects, okay? That also affects how they will retain the information. I know na pagdating sa real life, mabobombard talaga or may time na talagang kailangan mong i-compress at bilisan. So, you need to plan your lessons early. Paano mo ngayon siya hahatiin? Mapapasok tayo mamaya sa planning natin, sa lesson planning. Paano mo ngayon hahatiin ang time mo sa lesson mo to the point that you will not bombard your students with too much information and very rapidly, so that retention of information with understanding could be enhanced. Again, no, these are just suggestive, and these are actually general things that you can do during class. No, you have verbal repetition. You need to pause and assess your students, and then you need to ask them, do they understand? Do they have any question? May naguguluhan ba? Because in that way, you can know whether there was retention of information. Baka tanungin nyo ako, or kapag tinanong nyo, ma'am, what happens kung pag sinabi nila, wala po kaming tanong, ma'am? Does that mean na hindi nila ako naintindihan? Again, there are gestures, no? May mga, ano ba tawag natin doon? Expression, gestures, yung mga learners natin, where you can really see, sa totoo lang, when you were there, kapag nandun ka sa classroom, ma-assess mo siya when you look your students, if they really have retained the information or they did understand your lesson. Kasi may mga gestures, may mga expressions sila that they are showing na they understood the lesson. Makikita mo rin talaga yung sinasabi ko na may question mark sa mukha nila o may question mark sa ulo nila talaga. When you say, do you understand? Makikita at makikita mo yung expression nila. So, kapag ganun, kapag nagtanong ka at wala daw silang tanong, they did understand, and you have assessed on their expressions and gestures that they really do understand, then wala nang problema. Ngayon, kung mapapansin mo na nahihiya lang sila magsabi, ikaw na, as a teacher, you can summarize the important information for the class para hindi ka naman ano tawag mo dito, nauubusan ng oras. So, do not bombard your learners with too much information in a rapid way. Kasi, mahirapan ka din. Huwag ka rin sobrang bagal. No? You need to pace your teaching. Kailangan, you can assess your students. No? This is why meron tayong introduce yourself at the start. Hindi lang siya dahil nakagawian na, but teachers could assess the learners based on how they deliver themselves. Of course, you can see also your learners as time goes by, but yun nga, ma-assess mo sila. So, that could also help you in pacing your subject, okay, or your lesson. So, again, in terms of memory, there is one educator. Tinatawag natin sila mga forefathers, mga, um, ang tawag mo dito, idealist, sila yung mga forefathers nga ng education. They gave several theories wherein some of this become law na naka-anchor ngayon ang ating mga education and even other educational philosophies and ideologies. One is Edward Thorndike, as you can see on the picture. Edward Thorndike had proposed, no, and actually na-approve siya. He was the man behind the laws of learning. I remember na pinagawa ko to sa inyo last meeting kasi nga nagkaroon ako ng side effects sa aking vaccination. Actually, meron pa ako dito. By the way, anyway, TMI. So, according to Edward Thorndike, meron tayong actually primary laws and secondary laws. Pinagawa ko to sa inyo na i-research and also to try as might, no, na ipasok siya sa memory skills ng ating mga learners. Now, alam ko, nabasa ko, nakita ko, and even on several references, maraming pinapakitang laws of learning. Yung iba nga, um, hindi na hinate or kinategorized into the primary and secondary. But for me, I want to categorize it into two kasi the primary ones or the primary laws were really the first laws that Thorndike proposed. And then the secondary, ito na yung mga subsidiary kasunod na napansin niya upon the proposal of the first primary laws. So, ano ba itong sinasabi ko? Now, Thorndike laws of learning has categorized nga into two. One are the primary laws and the secondary laws. Now, you might say, ma'am, tatlo-tatlo lang yung pinagawa mo sa amin. But we have research na maraming secondary laws. Yes, maraming secondary laws. Some of the references have cited, I think, 6 new secondary laws. Merong 7, merong 8. However, I did not include others. Mapapansin nyo later on. Bakit? Kasi some of those laws are actually incorporated on several theories that was also suggested by other forefathers. At the same time, yung ibang laws doon ay pwedeng isubsume sa primary laws niya. So, ito lang yung mga, sabihin na nating basic laws of learning na importanteng ma-remember nyo at huwag yung malimutan, especially for your LET examination. Or teaching, yung basta let licensure examination nyo. Okay, let's have the primary laws of Thorndike. One, we have laws of readiness. 2, we have a law of exercise. Size. 3, we have law of effect. Okay, again, for primary laws, we have 3, law of readiness, law of exercise, and law of effect. For secondary laws, tatlo lang din yung kinuha kong basic secondary laws. 1, we have the law of primacy or primacy. We have law of recency. And third is the law of intensity. Now, ano ba itong mga laws of learning? Later on, i-associate ko siya sa memory. At mapapansin nyo kung bakit. Now, this laws, so si primary laws, law of readiness, law of exercise, and law of effect. Primary law kasi sila talaga yung pinakaunang pinropose ni Edward Thorndike. And they were, ito kung mapapansin nyo later on, itong tatlong to, very important talaga siya in terms of the learning of the students natin or the learners natin. So, law of readiness, it states that learning is dependent upon the learner's readiness to act. Readiness in terms physically, mentally, emotionally, physiologically. Ibig sabihin dito sa law na ito, ang learning ng bata, kung kailan siya handa na i-accept yung learning or information, then learning could proceed. If the learner is not ready for the information, then no matter how much you started the learning or the topic, kahit na sinimula mo yung lesson, if the learner is not yet ready for that, hindi magiging 100% or not even 85% sure na makukuha ng bata at ma-retain ng bata yung information. Ito ang dahilan kung bakit sa mga elementary or even in the secondary, primary and secondary schools, they still have parang pre-lesson activities. Yung tinatawag ng motivation. Yung may nagpapasayaw si teacher, nagpapakanta si teacher, may mga picture-picture na pinascale. Okay, hulaan nyo to, ganyan-ganyan. That is law of readiness. Bakit? For example, they're discussing food chain. Anong gagawin mo? Yung bata hindi pa ready. Sabi mo si grade 4, hindi niya alam ang food chain. Hindi niya alam kung ano yung food chain na sinasabi mo. How will you make a grade 4 student understand food chain na wala silang knowledge sa food chain? So, ang gagawin mo dyan, i-ready mo ang bata. Paano? This could be done via motivation activity. So, ang gagawin mo, suggestion, kung mapupunta kayo sa early childhood education later on, pag mapunta kayo doon, o yung sa mga prep, sa mga elementary, and even on secondary ones, on elementary lang hanggang grade 6, you can use on the motivation pictures. So, ang gawin mo, kung grade 3, grade 4 naman yan, at food chain ng topic, magpahula ka muna ng mga animals and plants. So, ano to? Magpa-skill ka. Anong picture to? Grass. O, anong picture ito? Sabihin nila, a grasshopper. Anong picture ito? Tapos sabihin nila, a bird. Ito, snake. And ito, a eagle. And then, i-line up mo siya ngayon sa board mo. So, you have the plant, the ganyan. I-line up mo siya ngayon. Okay. Or pwede rin naman, ang gawin mo, pictures na naka-jumbled sa wall. And then sabihin mo, okay, class, maglalaro tayo. Paglabanin mo ang dalawang row, si first row at si second row. O i-arrange nyo, sino ang mauuna? Sino ang kumakain sa plant? O sino kakain sa ganito? O plant. O sino susunod na, sino ang kukonsume sa plant? Tapos mag-uunahan na sila. Ididikit nila yung susunod na picture. O sino ang kukain sa kanya? Mag-uunahan sila. Now, in a way, ine-excite mo ang bata at the same time, actually, nire-ready mo na siya. Bakit? Naglaro kayo, natuwa ang bata, tapos ang tinapik mo, kumain. O sino kumain sa halaman? Si grasshopper, mag-uunahan sila mag-dikit. Sino kumain kay grasshopper, mag-uunahan sila ulit. In a way, you are already introducing your topic which is food chain. Bakit? Sino kumain? And then lalagyan mo na lang siya ngayon ng life. This is learning is dependent upon the learner's readiness to act, readiness to learn, the law of readiness. Kaya hanggang sa ngayon, even right now, even in the online scenario or virtual, no, virtual learning, there's still motivation because of this law. Another law that we have is the law of exercise. This states that in learning, the more frequently a stimulus and response are associated with each other, the more likely the particular response will follow the stimulus. In essence, law of exercise or law of repetition. Ano tong stimulus at ano tong response? Okay. Pag sinabi mong stimulus, ito yung stimulator. Siya yung cause para magkaroon ng response o effect. So, meron kang ginagawa to stimulate a certain response. Now, kung itong stimulus mo at ito yung specific response mo, kapag may ito na naman ang stimulus mo, ang gagawin ng learner mo, ito na naman ang response niya. Ito ang stimulus mo, ganun pa rin ang ginamit mo, ito pa rin ang response niya. So, paulit-ulit na itong stimulus mo, ang nangyari kay student, paulit-ulit na ito yung response. Until such time na innate o natural na sa estudyante, natural na sa learner natin, na ito yung kanyang gagawin kapag meron kang binigay. Example na lang. Okay. Stimulus mo. Get 1/4 sheet of paper. Ano response ng estudyante mo? Ma'am, 1/4? Ganyan. So, anong gagawin mo dun? Oo, sinabi ko bang 1/2? 1/4. So, next time, paulit-ulit ba tayo? Ganyan, sabihin mo ganyan. And then, next time, sabihin niya, okay, get 1/4 again. So, yung bata, hindi niya nagagawin na, ma'am, ganyan. Hindi na siya magtatanong kasi nasettle mo na yung rule mo. Pag sinabi mo 1/4, 1/4. So, ganun siya. Pwedeng ganun ang ano. Or, pwede rin naman, in terms of learning na kapag, ano ba yung mga innate response na sa klase. Okay. Kapag gawin natin mas simple. O gawin natin sa math. Kapag sinabi mo, 2 times 2, innate sa bata ang sagot, 4. Okay, kung meron dito mga BS Mathematics, so yun na ho akong sabihan ng something about math na hindi naman siya ganun ka-strict. Or kapag meron naman po dito mga philosophy major na it depends upon something. Hindi po tayo doon, doon tayo sa rule ng mathematics and numerics. No, pag sinabi mong 2 times 2, in the multiplication table, ang sasabihin ng bata, 2 times 2 is 4. Kapag sinabi mo namang 2 times 3, magiging 6. Automatic na, yun yung sagot sa iyo ng bata. Bakit? In a particular stimulus, 2 times 2, 4. 2 times 3, 6. Again, inulit mo, 2 times 3, 6. Sasabihin sa iyo ng bata. 2 times 2, 4. So, nagkakaroon ka ngayon ng particular response ng bata dun sa stimulus mo. This is the law of exercise. And the more that it becomes repeated, that the more you introduce the student on that stimulus, the more na yun yung gagamitin niyang response. Nagkakaroon siya ng retention sa kanyang brain na yun yung sagot or yun yung tamang information for that matter. Okay? Third, law of effect. It states that in learning, responses that is giving satisfaction to your learners will become more fixed or attached to the situation, and likely it will be repeated by your learners. So, kapag, for example, there is a stimulus and there is a response, kapag nakita ng student na nung nag-respond siya, meron siyang satisfying na satisfaction na nakuha nung nag-respond siya, there's a likely way na yung bata, yun ang gagamitin niyang pang-respond sa'yo. For example, stimulus mo, for example, nagtanong ka, what's your name? O ganito. And then yung bata, sasabihin niya ang pangalan niya with po. No? Ay, very good ka naman, nagpo-po ka. The next time na may kakausap sa kanya at nagsabi ulit siya ng po, ay, very good, nagpo-po naman talaga. So, nagkakaroon, yung way ng stating mo na, very good, that's good. That is actually you're putting now, no, nagbibigay ka ng satisfaction doon sa yung learner na, wow, good pala ako. I want to get that praise again. That praising now puts satisfaction on the response of your learner. And putting that, no, satisfaction, the next time na meron ulit na ganong stimulus or question at ito yung response niya, because may satisfaction siyang nakuha due to your praising or whatever you did, na-satisfy siya no, innately sa kanya, yun ang gagamitin niya ulit na response o sagot sa iyo. And it will be likely repeated and repeated again hanggat may satisfaction siyang nakuha sa pagsagot niya sa iyo. And this is, dito pumapasok yung systems of reward or reinforcement. Pag-uusapan pa po natin ito. Now, we also have other secondary laws. We have the law of primacy, which states that learning that takes place in the beginning is the best and lasting. Kaya, if it will be the first time that the students, no, or the learners will encounter the information, make sure that it is correct. Kasi, I will give you an example. One of my son's teachers said, sa science ito, sabi niya, okay, kids, sabi niya, what do you mean kapag those animals that, ano yun, sabi niya, arboreal animals, where do they live? Alam mo, sagot ng mga bata, air. Why? Dahil yun ang sinabi niya. So, when you say, arboreal animals live in air. They have wings. Sabi niya. Yun ako, bilang nanay, alam ko, when you say arboreal, these are animals that live above ground. No? Kumbaga, ang natural home nila is not on the ground, but above ground. So, they live on trees. They live on canopies. They live on trunks of trees. Basta, nasa taas siya, hindi siya sa lupa natutulog. Nasa taas siya. So, you know that arboreal animals like leopards, you have monkeys, you have, ano pa ba to, yung baboons. They do not just dwell on underground o above ground, nandito sila sa mga puno. Arboreal yan. Not all birds. Hindi naman ibig sabihin na may bird ka at lumilipad ka, arboreal animal ka na. Arboreal animals are those that have home above ground, regardless whether they have wings or not. So, ngayon ang mga bata, pag sinabi nilang arboreal, kahit yung anak ko, they live in air. May nakita ka bang, sabi ko, anak, may nakita ka bang nakatira sa hangin? Wala, diba? Or, kapag sinabi mo naman, they have wings. Hindi lahat ng arboreal animals have wings. Dito pumapasok yung law of primacy. If you gave at the start wrong information to your learners, there's a high chance na madadala nila yon. And that will become a problem on their succeeding lesson or next grade level. Meron kang pinasok na maling information. So, when you will be teaching, make sure kahit naman paano, no, kung kakaiba yung word, you have checked it first before you teach it. Or kung hindi mo talaga pa at the moment na caught off guard ka, then tell, okay, babalikan kita when I have a sure answer. Alam mo yon, kasi law of primacy. The first time that the information was given will be lasting. Alam nyo rin po yan, lalo na sa may mga anak. They believe their prep teacher more than we na mga parents. Law of primacy. Another law of Thorndike is law of recency. Now, in the law of recency, ang sinasabi niya, recent acts are lasting. So, when you have recent, ngayon, yung mga bagay na ngayon niya ginawa, mas naaalala niya pa o mas marami siyang nare-remember siya. Now, for example, you did an activity today or last Monday, sabihin mo. And then, on last Monday, ito yung mga ginawa nyo, ito yung step by step. And then, balikan mo ngayong Friday, mapapansin mo sa quiz nila, may chance na malilimut, maaalala pa nila. Pero yung activity mo 2-3 weeks ago, isama mo ngayon sa exam, may high chance na hindi na nila maaalala yun. Why? Because the recent acts are actually more lasting din. So, mas recent siya, mas naalala. Kaya, dapat, kapag nagtuturo ka, you always tend to connect your lessons on the previous lessons para merong review pa rin and nahahatak mo, nahahablot mo pa rin yung previous lessons para pag pinasok mo yung new lessons, nagkakaroon ng complementation or nagbabind yung information, hindi napapabayaan yung previous lessons that you have discussed on your students. Okay? So, review is also important and connecting your present lesson to the past lesson is also important kasi because of this law of recency. Okay? And then, law of intensity. This law states that in learning, if a stimulus is strong, the response will be strong. If the stimulus is weak, then the response will be weak. So what does it mean? If you give exams, examinations, ay, kailangan pahirapan ko ng sobra. No, not naman. Pero kung napapansin mo, for example, that students really already know the information, then you make it next level mo ang questioning, next level mo ang assessment. For those naman na parang nahihirapan siya, medyo iayos mo muna yung assessment mo na level pa sa coping na. So, law of intensity. Kapag puro ganun na lang, puro madali na lang ang ginagawa ng bata, ang tendency nan, they will get bored because they know already the information, they know already the response, maalam na nila kung ano yung dapat nilang gawin, maboboard lang ang bata doon. So, walang learning na magko-comments. However, if you increase the intensity, dahan-dahan mong increase slightly yung assessment mo or the way you will be evaluating your students, there's a high chance that learning could be strengthened. Bakit? You started from a very low level questions and then you increase the level, then you increase. So yung learning niya, umaangat din, umaantabay. So kung paano mo pinapasok yung assessment, you are also there is no parallel in parallelization. Is that a word? Is that a word? There is a parallel in terms of the learning, the information that you are giving. No, tumataas yung binibigay mo, umaantabay, the student's learning is also trying to keep up with the pace. In that case, you increase the intensity of your assessment, you increase the intensity of the work or the requirements. Your students will now, they do not yet understand it or akala nila pinapahirapan mo daw sila. But the truth is, you are intensifying what they have already. So, kumbaga, ini-strengthen mo pa yung ability nila. You are trying to provoke how long or how much they could give. And because of that, you are actually enhancing their learning. Kumbaga, tina-challenge mo. There should be challenge still, You should have make your lessons. You make learning quite challenging to your learners because if learning or the teaching learning process is very easy for them, there's a high chance that your learners will not anymore learn from you. They will get bored and there's a probably withdrawal of your learners in learning. So, if you keep on increasing the intensity, wag naman yung bigla, wag abrupt. There should be a spontaneous lang, dahan-dahan. If there's a spontaneous increase in the intensity of your teaching learning with your students, parang ako sumasayaw. Kapag merong dahan-dahan yung intensity mo, there's also a chance that the ability and the learning of your students will keep up on this intensity to the point that you know your students have reached their potential. So, ito yun. Ito yung pumapasok na every um, child is a potential genius because you are trying to make as much as possible as a teacher, no, ma-increase yung kanyang ability, coinciding with their law of intensity. Now, balikan natin. Marami kang sinabi. Nasa memory tayo. Lahat po ba ito could be put on memory? Actually, if you will be talking, yes, no? You should not look this law as parang law lang that it's one. No, actually, when you're dealing with learners, you will be incorporating, you will be incorporating everything. Lahat ito. Magkakaroon ng parang simultaneous effect on the learners. Pero, no, I also ask others to at least try to relate this loss of learning in terms dun sa kanilang memory cognitive skills. Or cognitive faculties. Anong law ni Thorndike? What are the laws? What are Thorndike's laws of learning that could be related to the memory ability of our learners? And, okay. So, pwede silang lahat. But, kasi binasa ko yung iba, I have read what you have submitted on the Gmail. Some says everything. Some only says around one, which is law of exercise. Some says na it's law of effect. Some says na recency. So, pwede siya. The justifications that you have given in there are actually, quite, kung ako magbabasa, kung ako mag-assess, acceptable. And accordingly, lahat naman itong law, they help each other. However, in my point of view naman, these are the laws that could enhance the memory cognitive faculty or the memory faculty of our learner. 1. Law of exercise. According to Thorndike, it is circulating or revolving around the role of practice in learning. The role of practice. It states that the strength with which a response will be connected with a situation depends upon the number of times the response has occurred in that situation. Again, the strength with which a response will be connected with a situation depends upon the number of times the response has occurred in that situation. Ibig pong sabihin, the higher that there is a repetition or practice, there is a high chance that the response could get permanent to our learners. If that's the case, if the response gets permanent, example, multiplication table. I remember multiplication table because I remember how many rulers. Bawal na ito ngayon sa atin. Pero nung panahon ko, ilang ruler din po ang nabasag sa aking mga kamay at tuhod. Kasi kapag hindi ko nasaulado ito, if I did not memorize it, of course, a ruler will be coming towards me. So when my mom says, 7 times 9, and I replied 56, lagot, patay, meron ng ruler. So what happens is that my mom says, you memorize it, you repeat it again and again and again and again. And I did. So what happens is that the higher chance of practicing, the higher chance of repeating 9 times 9 equals 81, 9 times 9 equals 81, 9 times 9 equals 81, there's a high chance that the response could be permanent. No? It gets permanent to our learners. Ito yung magandang example kasi ito talaga yung meron kang um, concrete na stimuli and you have a concrete response. So when you say 8 times 2, you know that's 16. You don't say 8 times 2, 81. No. No? Huwag niyo akong napapasukan ng philosophy. But 8 times 2 equals 16, 8 times 2 equals 16. The more that the learner repeats it, the more that the learner practice that 8 times 2 equals 16, the more that the answer 16 gets instilled, retained, and becomes a permanent response to the question or stimuli 8 times 2. Now, if more repetition, the response gets permanent. The more that you repeat and repeat it again, there can be no strengthening of the response. And once the response gets strengthened and becomes instilled permanently, then there will be a high chance that your learners will repeat it again. So, at home, no, sa bahay, pag sinabi mong 8 times 2, 16 ang sagot ng bata sa'yo. 8 times 2, 16 ang sagot ng bata sa'yo. When he or when the child now or the learner goes to school and their teacher, math teacher will ask, 8 times 2, 16. They will have an automatic response. Even us. No, mental. We do mental math. When you say 9 times 8, you already said 72 because that's an innate response to us. No? So, parang nagiging innate na siya sa akin. Why? We keep on practicing it. We keep on repeating it. The response becomes permanent. It becomes strengthened. So, the next time that stimulus 9 times 7 comes in, you know that it will be 63. So, nare-repeat lang siya. Okay? So, therefore, practice is directly proportional with memory. And that is why law of exercise is really related, directly also related. No? Sorry, again, therefore, practice is directly proportional with memory. That is, the law of exercise is directly related to memory. The more that the response is repeated to a certain stimulus, the more it gets permanent and strengthened, and the more that it could be repeated. And that is also the higher chance that your brain will store and retain that response so that on the next, again, on the next situation or similar situation, they will retrieve that and that will be your response to the stimulus. Okay, so we have the multiplication table. So now the students will try to memorize the multiplication table. They will. We did. So ganun din yung mga anak or pamangkin natin right now. They try to memorize the multiplication table. They do that by themselves or they do it by or with others. So pwedeng parents. No? Sa akin, kasama ko nanay ko, pero may kasama ding ruler. Plastic, kahoy, glass, nasubukan ko nang nabasag sa akin lahat yan. Well, that's how I learned. No? Hindi ko sinasabing saktan yung anak ko because hindi na siya pwede. But I think, well, it's up for debate. It's up for debate. No? Anyway, iwanan ko na siya. Again, remember, the higher repetition that we have or the more practice we have, there is now permanency and strengthening of that response, and there is higher chance that there will be memorization that will happen. However, okay, however, no, however, according to another law, may isa pang law, which is law of effect. In learning, responses closely followed by satisfaction will become firmly attached to the situation and likely to be repeated. So, again, depending on the effect. Sa akin kasi, the effect on memorizing multiplication table It was associated that if I get it wrong, no, if I get it wrong, it's not actually satisfaction. O ang satisfaction ko doon is that if I get the answer right, walang ruler na dadapo sa akin. And the more chances that I said the correct answer, the higher the chances na walang mababasag na ruler sa kamay ko during that time. And that is a satisfaction for me. Siyempre, hindi ako masasaktan. So, according to the law of effect, no, if responses is not followed by any means or mechanism that will give satisfaction to the learner, there's a higher chance na hindi rin siya ma-instill, hindi rin siya ma-memorize ng bata. Hence, dito pumapasok ang rewards and or tinatawag nating reinforcement in psychology. This reward sa takpan yung clip art pero ano yan, batang merong nilalagyan ng medal. Some of the rewards could be in the form of medals. Some of our learners or ating mga bata, they get proud of themselves, they get satisfied of themselves if they got the ribbons, no? Kapag may ribbon ka, best in math or medal ka na honors because ang tataas ng grade mo. Your learners get the satisfaction or even just a reinforcement of saying, good job, very good, or yung meron ka talagang, hindi pong pwedeng pikein eh. Dapat you are also truthful. Talagang, when you say very good, you mean it. It's just not because natutunan mo na kailangan mo siyang sabihin, but you really are, truly are amazed with the development of your learner. Hindi mo pwedeng fake yun because they will also or they will still felt, no? Dapat totoo ka pa rin. When you say, very good, that's a good job, you will be delivering a good satisfaction to your learner. Especially kapag alam nilang authentic, totoo, yung reward na binigay mo sa kanya. Now, you might ask, Ma'am, paano? How will we do this reward mechanism? How will we do the law of effect? So, again, baka mabilis ako. Balik tayo dun sa memorization. Repeat, verbal repetition, pause, and ask. Okay, again. So, a law that is associated with memory is law of exercise. And another is law of effect. Okay? Bakit? Even if they repeat it, the response, even if it gets permanently attached to us or strengthened to us, there's a high chance that your learners will not do that again, or there will be a chance that they will not remember it again if there is no satisfaction associated. Kumbaga, sa atin, kapag ang experience natin ay masaya, di ba? Kapag ang experience natin ay yung talagang super happy tayo, na satisfied tayo, we do remember that. The time that you're very, very happy, naaalala mo siya. And the time that it's very painful sa'yo, naaalala mo rin siya. Now, the thing in here is that if the response was done properly and you gave a reward, positive reinforcement, there's joy, naaalala ng bata yan. And if the experience becomes parang naalala ng bata is a negative one, magkakaroon tayo ng problema because they will try to at least avoid yung negative experience towards that. So, kailangan there should be satisfaction that we will be giving to the learners. Dapat meron tayong binibigay sa kanila mekanismo ng reward. Kaya sa early childhood education, yung prep to grade 6, normal na dapat meron kang binibigay. Ay, very good! Clap your hands! Bigyan natin ng masigabong palakpakan. Tatlong palakpak, tatlong padyak, bang, bang, bang. Di ba? May mga ganun tayong mechanism na naririnig sa early childhood, sa mga elementary. Why? They are associating law of effect with law of exercise. Yung response ng bata, sinasamahan nila ng satisfaction. Nagiging proud sila because I answered correctly in front of my classmates and in front of my teacher. And my teacher appreciates that. Doon siya pumapasok. Now, pag face-to-face, ganun. Ma'am, how about on virtual learning? Now, maraming device or maraming mechanism kaming ginagawa. I could not promise na lahat ay successful, but we try. No? Ngayon, usong-uso sa virtual learning itong ganito. They have coupons o coupons. Coupons, no? Ito yung reward coupons na ginagamit nila sa teaching in the new era, in the new normal. So what do? For every correct answer or for every correct or for every activity worksheet that they did well, there are coupons that the teacher could give virtually. So, pwedeng one, pag virtual yan at medyo mahigpit sila sa uniform, one coupon is that they could get comfy coupon. Ito yung coupon na kahit nakapantulog sila, that's all right. Or pwede rin naman that one coupon is they will be excused for one virtual activity or they could, pwede silang hindi umattend ng isang virtual activity. Pwedeng ganun. The more coupons that they have, the more chances that they could use it for their benefit. So, ang mangyari doon, the next time, no, yung iba dyan mag-uunahan sila sa coupon and then magkakaroon sila ng parang, oh, gusto kong tamang sagot ko. I would do this correctly so that I could get a coupon and that I could use that. So, that coupon that there will be no homework, I will be using that. So, pwedeng ganun. So, may mga coupons tayo that you can use. There are several things also in the virtual class na pwede mong gawin. Pwedeng wala silang activity, free activity, or free sila on the next time. Or, ang ginagawa ngayon ng ibang teachers, lalo sa examination, is GCash sa mga estudyanteng nag-open ng kanilang camera. May lucky winner for 200 GCash. Meron ganun. I have a not a co-teacher. Bali, she's a faculty in Batangas State University and she's my friend and my classmate in my PhD. So, ang ginawa niya kasi on the virtual class during examinations or even they do not open their camera. So, we can't be sure enough na dyan kayo at nakikinig kayo. So, ang ginawa niya, nagpa-raffle draw siya sa mga mag-open ng cam also out the 1-hour class. And then, nagpa-Gcash siya. So, pwedeng ganon. It's a reward. Kasi, monetary, hindi ata maganda yan, ha? The thing is, we're on the virtual scenario and some of the students doesn't have enough money to sustain their data, their load on their phones. So, GCash worth of 50 pesos, 200 pesos, it's very important to some of the students. So, maraming mag-open. This is a way to encourage that. So, law of effect. So, the next time na magpapa-classes siya or magpapa-exam siya, automatic that they will be opening their camera. Why? They know nagkaroon na siya ngayon ng positive or satisfaction in there. This is also the same in our memorization. Kapag there is a positive reinforcement associated with the response of our learners o yung sagot ng learners natin, kapag may satisfaction siyang nakuha doon, merong chance that the next time that you gave an activity or stimulus na pareho, yun din ang gagawin niyang response. Why? Kasi meron siyang nakuhang satisfaction at na-practice niya to. So, na-memorize niya yung information. Excuse me. Okay? So, the higher also the satisfaction, the higher will now be the retention of the information. So, it's not just any more practice, but there's also satisfaction in here. The satisfaction becomes their motivation to learn. Dito pumapasok, no? Depending whether it's positive or negative. No? Dito pumapasok yung motivation. No? In motivation, there will be the law of effect. Pwedeng intrinsic motivation siya, yung satisfaction niya, intrinsic satisfaction, because this is personally rewarding themselves. Ito yung kinakausap natin yung sarili natin. Kaya mo yan, Rubian. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you did it. Katinan mo na. Ganyan. Yung satisfaction sa loob mo that you did the activity well, that you did accomplish something on that subject. Yung saya, the joy that it felt, yung satisfaction talaga, innate sa loob mo. And also, the extrinsic one, yung rewards, money, fame, di ba, madalas, galing mo naman, pare, yung, ikaw talaga, galing-galing mo. Ikaw naman, parang, di naman, ano lang yun, ganyan. Chamba, naghamblog ka pa, di ba? Pero, sa totoo lang, there is pride in you because you want to get that fame. No? Nung nakuha mo yung, ang tawag mo doon, nakuha mo yung, uh, puri, papuri, the people saying positive things about you, it enhances your confidence, it gives you satisfaction, so the next time that there's something again like that, you will do that response, you will be continuing to pursue that thing that you're doing, because it's already instilled to you, it's already retained to you, that if you did that response, you will get the satisfaction that you need, whether within or on the outside of you. The money, the fame, the rewards, the praise, and everything. So, law of effect. Kaya, importante din that for the memory faculty of our learners, you do repetition, you do practice, but do not forget to motivate and give satisfaction to your learners through no, through rewards and reinforcements like praise or classroom ribbons, whatever you do. Kasi natutuwa ang mga bata natin dyan. Yung mga pa-star-star mo dyan. Sa matatanda, sa mga colleges, hindi na din sila natutuwa dyan. But on the idea that they will be exempted on the final examination or they will be exempted on the chapter quizzes, matutuwa sila dyan and they will be striving hard. So, there's a high chance that memorization and retention of the information will be done kasi meron na silang tina-target to give them satisfaction. So, pwedeng ganun. Ako kasi ganun yung college. My motivation was, yung satisfaction ko was to see my student number gets exempted in the final examination and to ensure that yung mga yun nandun is 1.5 na at the minimum sa grade nila sa college. So, sa akin, yun eh. Yun yung aking nakakuha ko ng satisfaction doon. So, what I did was, I did practice, I did review, I did memorize yung understanding the lessons para hindi na ako mag-exam. So, something to keep up with. Law of effect. Okay? Now, law of intensity also. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. In learning, if a stimulus is strong, then the response will be strong. If the stimulus is weak, then the response will be weak. And, no, kapag strong yung stimulus at a strong response, as you can see in here, no, kailangan as a coach, you push your students to their potential. Hindi mo naman totally i-push mo na sa limit na tatalon na siya sa building. Hindi naman ganun. You know to us, alam mo dapat, you should know what's the limit of your learners at the same time to push them further. Try, no? With proper coaching, no? As you can see in here, nagkakaroon tayo, ito yung gusto nating ma-achieve eh. Kaya natin pinapahirapan kahit papano. No? We try. Bakit kasi ng term na pinapahirapan natin ang students? I think, mas maganda siguro yung term na parang we try for them to reach their potential unconsciously. So, ang gagawin mo dito is that you strengthen the stimulus so that the response could also get strengthened. So, as you can see, unconscious incompetence and then you're trying, no? Conscious incompetence, alam naman akong alam dyan, bagsak na naman ako. And then, try mo siyang i-push forward. Hindi, kaya mo yan. Law of effect again. Kaya mo yan. Let's practice and practice and practice. Law of exercise. So that you can retain or memorize with understanding the information. Ano yung pinag-uusapan natin? Conscious competence. Yan. Diyan na pumapasok yung law of effect, your good words, no? And then, sige, practice ka lang, anak. Kaya mo yan. Let's do it. Okay, tutulungan kita. There is na. Sige, practice pa tayo. There's law of effect, there's law of exercise in there. And then, yung intensity, tinataas mo, hindi niya lang alam. No? Until such time na, ang hirap naman ma'am ng pinagawa mo. But, no, sasabihin mo sa kanya, oy, nagawa mo naman, na-overcome mo. Unconscious competence. Your learners doesn't understand, hindi man lang nila at the moment, naintindihan, kaya pala ako pinahirapan ni Ma'am Bakani. Kaya pala puro siya dapat ipasa. Puro replyan mo yung ganitong tanong niya. Now I understand. So, doon papasok yung unconscious competence. You try to let your learners reach that potential that they do not know. And by doing so, you are enhancing their cognitive faculties. Actually, itong ganito sa mga laws, ito tinatamaan niya, kaya it could also grasp the five senses, it could also grasp imagination, kasama rin siya dito, no? So, for me, in terms of the memory, cognitive faculty of our learners, law of exercise, law of effect, and law of intensity could go hand in hand in, no, in enhancing the retention capacity and capability of our learners. So, ma'am, paano yung sagot po namin? May recency. Meron pa po kami doon, nahanap po kasi namin yung law of association doon sa secondary. Yun po nilagay ko. That's fine, no? Hindi naman ibig sabihin that this is the correct, ito yung sinabi ko, ito na lang, I would not consider your answers. Of course, I will also look at how how did you relate it to memory? Kasi baka may point to consider that you are also correct. Okay? Hindi naman ibig sabihin, ako lang yung tama. Okay? So, if you have questions, just write it down and then we will be meeting, no? Next meeting ng live for several corrections or you want some clarifications. Pag-uusapan pa natin. I-visit natin. So, I'll be moving on to this one. This is the last cognitive faculty. But I will be cutting the video short here kasi masyado na siyang mahaba and I will be having a difficult time exporting this. But after this, in a short while, mayroon na namang isa pang video, no? So, i-upload ko din siya. Wait nyo na lang siya on that part. So, for tonight, thank you. Doon ko i-end itong recording na to and then pa-follow ko agad itong intellect. So, wait nyo na. Okay, and see you on the next video on the intellect cognitive faculty of our learners. So, hintayin nyo lang po and see you on the next video. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.